Today we're going to talk about some creepy old ice cream man who told the nation's parents that the children belong to the state. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, this is Keith. Welcome to the Ghetto Sapien channel, your home of inner city intelligence. So if you haven't guessed by now, creepy old ice cream man I'm talking about is none other than Joe Biden. What a way to start off your 2024 campaign by telling everyone that their kids do not belong to them. They belong to the state, aka the nation. But, when it's a politician, he's talking about the state. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't see the nation coming in to help me when I was raising my kids, or just my wife and myself and our immediate family. That's all I wanted. I don't trust people take too much interest in my children. And I'm sure most parents don't. Some strange person coming up and saying there's no such thing as somebody else's kids. Oh, the hell. There isn't. Those are my kids. But before I go on, just hear Biden's words yourself.
Her students tell her, even after they graduated, they hold on to the lessons she taught them, not only about integrals and derivatives.
What the hell is that? What kind of lesson was this lady teaching her kids? What the integral?
But about community connections, about how all of us belong.
Belong to what? With this White House, he could be talking about some family-friendly, strip show, drag show. So community, yeah. I just don't trust him. Sorry. All right. Sorry for interrupting.
Rebecca put a teacher's creed into words when she said, "There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children. As I often say, you teachers hold the kite strings to lift our national ambitions aloft. You really do. Just imagine if we didn't have great teachers in this country. What difficulty we're in. You are determining our future."
Oh, yeah, that was creepy. The only thing missing from President Scratch and Sniff's podium speech is he should have been talking in front of this thing. I think that would have been much more fitting given Joe Biden's background. I mean, just look at this photo of him and Hunter. It almost makes me feel sorry for Hunter for a quick moment. Look at him. He's looking into the camera just thinking, I don't know how many underage hookers and blow this is going to take for me to forget this photo shoot, but I'm going to find out. That's just, look, I have a son. I'd never take a photo of him like that, and he wouldn't take one with me like that. Joe Biden with children, that's a really bad record he's got there. It's probably one of the things that is worse than his foreign policy and his domestic policy are those photos with him and children. And if you want to really get an eye opener, probably how damaging Papa Joe was, you just read, just try and get a glimpse of Ashley Biden's diary that's been confirmed that's out there. That'll really give you an idea of just how bad a father this guy is. I don't know what he's talking about, that there's no such thing as somebody else's kids. Let me tell you, every time my wife and I go on vacation, I am looking for resorts. I always tell our travel agent, find some place that doesn't have somebody else's kids. I want an adult spot. I don't want to see. I've raised my kids. I think I did a pretty good job with my wife. I don't want to see somebody else's kids. I got nothing against kids, but I love mine, yours. Take care of your kids. You breed them, you feed them. It's not going to be the nation that's going to be raising your kids. If you think so, if the nation's raising your kids, probably you're talking to your kids through about 3 inches of plexiglass and a parole officer. The nation's not going to be raising your kids. I don't even know how that works out. That's just some lofty idea that Biden's throwing out there, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. If you want to get an idea of Joe's policies and what they're doing to other children, Check this out.
A whistleblower is expected to issue a stark warning to lawmakers today that the U.S. has become, quote, the middleman in a multi-billion-dollar migrant child trafficking operation at the border. Joining me now is Republican Texas Congressman Pat Fallon for more on this. Congressman, the headline of this story is horrifying, that the United States government would somehow play the middleman in this. Is that true?
David, thank you for having me on. Absolutely. Joe Biden and his administration have really not only enabled but facilitated the largest sex trafficking and human smuggling operation in human history. And it's been going on now, David, for almost 2.5 years. We've had 7 million people cross the border illegally in the last 2.5 years. We've lost contact. The HHS has lost contact with 85,000 unaccompanied minors. And what most Americans don't realize is the drug cartels charge up to $4,000 per person for people that cross the border. And if you don't have that money, they'll either make you be a mule, they'll harm you, or you can quote unquote work it off. And that's why sexual trafficking is alive and well in the United States.
Well, there certainly is no question that the number of unaccompanied children crossing the border has dramatically increased. It was 33,000 in 2020, which is a huge number. Then in 2022, 2 years later, it went up to 152,000. And look at this, just so far this year, and we've only gone through a third of the year, 70,000. That could lead to 210,000 or even higher for the full year. So the numbers have dramatically increased. But again, I just want to be clear. It's not necessarily the government is helping, specifically consciously helping traffickers of children in this awful crime. It's just that could be the consequence of their actions, right?
David, there's no doubt it's a consequence of their actions. You just said and stated those figures. It's about 700% worse right now than it was under Donald Trump in his last year in office.
That's the Joe Biden legacy with children, sex traffickers. And he's turned this country into the biggest enabler in world history. He's enticing children to attempt to come to the border, and God knows what happens between there, wherever they left, and they're making their way through Mexico up into the United States. I'm sure many don't make it. New York Times had an article about child workers working like in slaughterhouses. It's just awful. And again, this is under Joe Biden's watch, and he's there telling the world that that you don't have children, the nation does. No, screw that. Raise your own children. Don't listen to Joe Biden's utterly ridiculous statement this man made. But again, it just goes along with his record of how he treated his children in his home. Same way the children are being treated at the border. Well, that's all I got to say on this. And you know the deal. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.